The rate at which buildings are collapsing in Ghana and Nigeria is becoming very, very worrying. In fact, Lagos is now termed as the collapse capital of Nigeria simply because a lot of buildings have collapsed in Lagos. Ghana has had its fair share of building collapses, though they are not as bad as the situation in Nigeria. In this video, we are going to look at the recent building collapses, the last one being 11th of March, which is just 5 days ago. Lots of people were injured, some people lost their lives. And what lessons can we learn from the historical building collapses? But first of all, let's look at the trend of the day. What is trending on social media? Now, what's trending on social media is this video by Africa Building Hub, which is us that we did, right? And this video was talking about this particular plant. We are still trying to find out the name of this plant, but essentially what the building is saying is that if you see this plant on a land that you are going to purchase, a house that you are going to rent, an apartment that you are buying to live in, even a house that you are living in, or an area, right? Not even necessarily the house, because the house could have been done and the whole place concreted. But if you see the neighborhood and you see this type of plant, what does it mean for you, for your future building project and more? Now, first of all, I want you to comment what's the name of that plant, because so many people have come up with so many different names. It's a bit confusing. This video has over 3 million views on Instagram and TikTok, which means there's a lot of interest. And we are going to look at what some of the comments are on the video. Now, some people were saying that, so let's get into the comment section for the video. God. Okay, so some people were commenting all manner of funny things for this particular video, and some said it's elephant grass, some said it's lemongrass, some said it's so many things. So for you who is watching, I want you to first of all tell us what is the name of the plant. What is the name of the plant? Really, really important to us. Now let's look at the comments. Someone said, am I ready to buy a land? No. But did I watch the video completely? Yeah. Someone said it's called a giant star grass. And then DJ Della says, why are people filling waterlogged lands to build on? This is just disaster waiting to happen. And then someone says, my mom taught me this. She also mentioned it's best to buy a land during the rainy seasons. Someone says, do I have a land? Do I have money to buy one? No. Did I save this video? Yes. Someone says, helpful, straightforward, and well-explained advice. Someone else says, Lagos developers and landlords left the group chat. The lands with seafood, okra proteins are not even left out. Not to Sandfield. Someone says, you are doing very good work. Hope you are getting paid some way. Interesting. Someone says, good video. I'll actually buy a land during the rainy season. And someone again says, Lekki's favorite plant. So it looks like this plant is very common in Lekki. And someone says, guys, he's right. My dad's house has these plants. Now we are suffering in it. Someone says they are going to buy solar cameras from us. Again, let me use this as an opportunity to say, if you are looking for solar cameras to monitor your building project, whether you are now starting or you've completed, you can get one from us. All you need to do is to send us an email. Our email address is currently on the screen, abh@abhcollabs.com. Buy 3, buy 4. Use it to monitor your building project. Now let's go back to the comments of this particular video. And then someone says, people will see it, but still buy because it's cheaper. Now, I have a question for you who is watching. Let me know, would you buy land that is potentially waterlogged, that is potentially on a Ramsar site because it's cheaper? And maybe you have the skill, the expertise, the knowledge, and the resources to build a correct house on it? Or would you want to buy a more expensive land? So if you had the option of buying a land that could easily get waterlogged versus a land on a hill, rocky hill, that would take you a lot of money to build, which would you prefer? Whether you're watching the live or the replay, please comment and let us know. Etonam, which one would you personally prefer?
I would definitely not buy I would definitely not buy any Ramsar, not at all, because it can't be me. Having to face because it's low priced. No, I wouldn't do that. I'd rather be on the safer side and invest in a expensive land, just so I can have my peace of mind for myself, my generations, and their generations to come. Because this thing you're seeing, it looks like a joke. There's a house in my area, right? That you can see that the foundation has been soaked with a lot of water, right? Wow. And you can see that they cannot even do any further developments because the foundation is like weak. It looks like they may have to break the entire house and then redo the foundation again. The whole land area, and it's in a prime area in Accra, right? But still Waterloo. So I would obviously avoid any day, anytime, avoid anything like that.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, I want everybody who is watching to comment. And if you also want to join the live interactive session, there's a link in the chat and in the community for you to, join. And there were so many comments. Like people said they would buy the land and use it for farming, rice farming, and all sorts of things. So the comments were in the tens of thousands. And, the main thing here, or the takeaway, is that always make sure that you go and check out your land when it's the rainy season or after it has rained, right? It will give you a lot of clues as to the future state. And I think all these also tie into today's topic. So let's look at the next trending news of today, which is that Ghana orders shutdown of substandard cement plants. Again, this was 11th March 2025. So this was barely like what, 5 days ago, right? Yeah. And it says, at a recent stakeholder meeting, Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosu-Ejari, instructed the Ghana Standards Authority to shut down cement companies that produce substandard products, according to Adom Online. Close down companies that are defaulting with substandard products to stop production until they can prove they can consistently produce quality products. This is really key. Now, she added that the price should not be used to justify poor quality cement and warned of the risks posed by substandard materials in public buildings like hotels. She pledged to conduct regular inspections of cement plants to enforce compliance. The Cement Manufacturers Development Committee Regulation LI 2480 and the Ghana Standards Authority Act 2022 allow the minister and the GSA to revoke licenses and halt the sale of non-compliant cement. Now, this is really, really big news and good news, because when a building collapses, right, there are so many things that are at stake, a lot of things are at stake. It's not just the building collapsing, right? Now, there are many stages of a building project, and there are different times at which the building can collapse. You understand? And unfortunately, many a times when it collapses is during the construction phase. Okay. And the people who tend to suffer are like the artisans on site, the carpenters, the masons, the laborers, and stuff like that. And in one of the articles that we have for the audience today, we had a news item in Kaswa where 3 construction workers passed away in August 2024. August 2024 in Kaswa, right? And they died after the building they were working on collapsed at Kaswa in the Wutu Senya East municipality of the Central Region. Now, according to a worker on site who survived, a carpenter and 2 other construction workers got entrapped under the rubble of the collapsed building. May their souls rest in peace. This is very terrible news. The carpenter died on the spot, while the others died while they were being evacuated to the hospital. The workers were filling concrete for the first floor of the story building when the entire building collapsed. Patrick Sapo, a worker on site who survived, narrating the incident, said, "I was standing by the machine serving those working on the building. When I noticed that the building was gradually coming down, I pushed one of my brothers closer to me aside, and I also managed to jump. I noticed that the building was not strong from the foundation, so I prompted the boys to work on the building that the foundation was not strong. Passerbys helped us to remove the people from the rubble. Now, this is a very, 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 very sad story. I am going to pause and then read some of the questions in the YouTube, live segment. Again, if you want to join the live interactive chat, it's available. All you need to do is to click the link in the chat or in the WhatsApp group, and then you would be able to join. So reading some of the comments on YouTube, we have Calabar says, okay, someone says, hi, can I ask a question? My dad was buying such a land. So he's talking about the waterlogged land.
Yeah.
When we visited, they put sand over it. Wow. We discovered later that it was a wet land. The question is, everyone says that it's best to go to Ghana and start a business rather than look for work. But how would we know what business is needed in Ghana? Thank you for the question. We will answer this on the live shortly. Okay. So I think the question started some way, but it moved completely different, right? It started about being scammed, but it ended about business opportunities
I think
in
that,
Ghana.
I think that he got a business opportunity, maybe buy a land and start a business. But from the opportunity, buying the land alone has sort of like has delayed the entire process of his business, right? So he's looking for which business, because now if he doesn't have to buy land again, maybe he wants to do transport instead. He doesn't have to buy land again. So he's trying to figure out whether he should do like a shop now, because he's locked at this point. So I'm sure.
Okay. Wow. Really interesting perspective that you bring in. So someone says, I will buy the marshy land. Here in Florida, you build up the land, then you build a home on a steel platform. So your home is above the water. I live on the river here. I love being close to the water. I don't know if everybody would agree with us, but keep commenting. I really want to know, because from the Instagram comments, like I said, thousands of comments, right? Thousands. And especially the people in Lekki. And we'll move to the Nigeria situation very soon as part of this live, interactive session and this video that we are doing. The situation in Lagos is terrible. Like they said, every 2 weeks, one building collapses.
Hey.
That is just crazy. Every 2 weeks, right? And I was talking about the different stages of building collapses. So we've looked at the first one where the project is still under construction, and the people who tend to suffer a lot, the casualties, are the construction workers. Now, in the year 2021, there was something else that happened in Nigeria, right? And I want us to read the article. The article says, Femi Osibona Dipin, as builder of collapsed Ikoyi building, is dead. Emerging reports have it that Femi, the owner of the firm in charge of the collapsed Ikoyi building, is dead. Emergency responders at the site on Thursday, November 4th, this is 2021, were able to recover the body of this developer. It was also confirmed that the lifeless body of the real estate tycoon has been taken to a morgue in Lagos. Now, Femi, who is the CEO of Fourscore Homes Limited, the company in charge of the collapsed 21-story building in Lagos. 21-story building. My goodness.
21.
No, like, we need to come back on camera to talk about that. Yeah, because
21.
Even putting up like this story building, that's not a joke.
It did 21.
21-story building collapsed. So it's very concerning. Any building that collapses, any casualty that we experience or encounter, our lives, families, right?
Yeah.
I remember when the Access Bank CEO who died in the helicopter crash or whatever. He has a family, right?
Yeah.
Families are involved. Like, if I hear of like even an accident, like a road accident happening, I'm always thinking of the number of families that are affected, right? Because someone could be the breadwinner of the family,
Charlie,
and all children will now they'll even not have opportunities to go to school where their next daily bread is coming from. So I want us to look at this as a very serious issue. Let's not just treat it as, today we are just doing this live and then we come and comment and go.
No.
Again, when we come here, we recognize the importance of the platform we've been given. In total, we have over 200,000 followers, right, across platforms. And our videos get average like millions of views every month across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Right. So we don't take it for granted, the kind of platform that we have. And we are raising these things so that we can avoid some of these issues. We did a video recently. In fact, you were the one who did a video on like the jobs available for Ghanaian youth to go into, right? So instead of staying at home and saying they are unemployed, they could consider the building and construction industry because it's always relevant. New projects are coming up and stuff. But if we are not adhering to building standards and the codes, and people, innocent artisans, right? Because the person who might have started the foundation is completely different from the person who is coming to finish it, right? And somebody is, let's say, coming to lay tiles and the building collapses on him. It's a breadwinner who a family has lost. It's a father, it's a husband, it's a son, and all these things, right? So people want to go into it, but they're also scared because of some of these news articles that they are hearing. You know, even in Dubai and other places, buildings have collapsed. In Turkey, right? Earthquake happens and then buildings collapse. But those ones, at least we can understand if they are disasters and stuff. But these ones are as a result of shoddy work, lack of expertise, structural defects,
so it turns
poor
out
quality
that's
materials.
the leading cause. That's one of the leading causes of the whole collapse and things, structural defects. So apparently, the 60%, right, of it's over 60% has been recorded, right, for building collapses, even in Nigeria alone, right? And when 60% is a large number, right? And after that, there's weak foundations, right? So to many of these things that we're talking about, most of them is the structural defect, weak foundations, and then where they are building.
Yeah, the kind of soil.
Because even if you look, for those who know Sakumono, right, when you go to Sakumono, just where the railway line is, right, on your left, right, depending on where you're coming from, the land looks beautiful when you stand on the railway, right? But it's a Ramsar site, right? It's a waterlogged area. But when you stand, it looks the view is beautiful, it's nice, all of that. But when it rains, you see fishermen with their canoes coming to fish. Yeah, so it becomes like a little lagoon.
Wow.
Right? But it looks beautiful when you stand there. I think I sent you a video and I even said it's beautiful to stand. Exactly. So, in as much as the beauty of the land is there, right, you'd have to consider the lives of those who come and work there. Your own life, right? Think about, like he was saying, like you or that person is the breadwinner, right? It's not telling them that, oh, it's a waterlogged area, you go and fill with sand and let them come and work, and while they're working, they will sink in your project. It's sad to a point where an owner of a 21-story had to die in his own building. I wonder the number of buildings he has.
Yeah, it's very bad news. Now, let's move back to that particular news item. So we continue to read the article because it's terrible. 21-story building. Now, the news report that rescue workers who spoke with journalists said his corpse was recovered from the rubble on Thursday, November 4th. And however, there's no confirmation as to when actually the lifeless body was discovered or rescued from the rubble. A team of emergency responders recovered the body and has taken it to the morgue. Right. Earlier, there were growing fears that the CEO was somewhere trapped in the rubble. So like it's trending. It was trending in 2021, right? And it was gathered that his car was parked at the premises on Monday, November 1st, when the tragedy happened. So it took like 3 days for them to be able to pull his.
Yeah, it was 21-story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cement blocks and things that have covered.
His phone lines were not reachable. As calls were made to ascertain if he was still alive and all that. And it's just terrible. Now, it says that Sanwo-Olu, right, who is the governor of Lagos State, suspends general manager of the Lagos State Building Control Agency as the death toll rises to 14. So apart from the CEO, there were other people over there. And the governor, you know, we like to do a lot of knee-jerk reactions, right? We like to do things after the fact. What's the essence of sacking the people in the Lagos State Agency? I understand they are the people who are supposed to give permits and all that.
Yeah.
But we should be policing the permit acquisition process. We shouldn't wait till disasters happen. One thing I see a lot about Ghana, Nigeria, and Africa in general, till something happens, nobody will take action, right? We can see a pothole on a highway that people are going 120 kilometers per hour and stuff like that. A big pothole begins to arise. or somebody leaves a truck which is spoiled by the side of the road,
no hazard,
eating
nothing.
into the road, nobody is going to do anything until somebody dies.
Can't
And
do
until
this in America.
somebody prominent dies,
Then they
we
start
don't
to
care,
do-
right? Because week in and week out, accidents have been occurring in Ghana on our roads, Accra Kumasi Highway, right? And a lot of these are due to overspeeding, but the fact that we are having head-on collisions, how many years? 68 years after independence, on one of the most important roads in Ghana, which connects the northern and southern parts of the country. Head-on collisions. When you go to other countries in Africa, you have 5 lanes going, 5 lanes coming, 10 lanes going, 10 lanes coming. And 68 years after independence, you have a very narrow road between Accra and Kumasi, and cars are speeding and people are losing their lives. Till a politician dies, till somebody famous dies, nobody cares. People will keep building on these water bodies till a building collapses on a politician or somebody rich. We will keep having these issues over and over and over again. And for me, it's a very concerning issue. Now, Henry Abochi says a land can be waterlogged, but if it's at a desirable location, people will still build. The most important thing is knowing about what you are purchasing. You can still build a good foundation on it. But my question to you, Henry, is why are we encouraging people to even build on wetlands?
How much are you going to spend building on the Westland?
Well, you know, people who have money, they don't really care about that.
Okay.
But I did a lot of like botany and all these things, biology and stuff, first degree. And Ramsar sites, wetlands, they have their place within the ecosystem, right? For birds, for plants, and there are roles that these things play, right? For our own survival as a people. But it's like every available portion of land in the highly densely populated cities in Africa, people want to take advantage of it to build.
Because it's cheaper?
Meanwhile, there are places, no, not because it's cheaper, because it has more value, higher value, right? Everybody wants to live in Accra.
Yeah.
It's the same way with Lekki and Lagos. I've been to Lekki, I've been to Lagos several times. Last year, I was there several times. Almost every year, I go to Lagos for maybe some business or whatever, right? And I've lived there for months, okay? And I've been even praising the Nigerians that, oh, they were able to reclaim a part of the sea where you would have hotels there. If nobody told you that this place was sea previously, you would not know. It's good technological advancements are going on and all that. But however, we need to consider all these things, right? Especially places that are waterways. Water is supposed to pass. Look at the rain that just fell on Thursday or Wednesday in Accra.
Hey,
look, I hear places got flooded again. Cars got destroyed. Lives were lost again in March. And I get scared what's going to happen in May, June, July. In March, even dry season, just the first heavy rain of the year, and we are losing lives. We are having floods. People's homes are destroyed. Are we serious in this country at all? Like, what kind of country are we building? Right? I want people to think about this and comment. Now the comments are coming in a lot on the YouTube.
Even on the 37 stretch, right? On the day it rained, right? If you were passing that stretch with a small car, you most likely have to park because it was that high.
Wow.
It was really raining. It was really, really, really raining. So if that wasn't a rainy season yet, then we have a problem.
Yeah, I'm really scared. Right, this fits off what we were discussing last week on the topic about why, even people were betting that they know that it will flood in Accra
and it's giving
in July.
Signs.
Yeah,
the signs have begun.
It's concerning. Where I live, when it rained, the whole road has been destroyed. You are coming? The road has been destroyed. And we waste so much money fixing roads in Ghana. And we do shoddy work. So I'm not surprised that the same kind of shoddy work translates into the buildings that we are building. And we are seeing this kind of collapse in the country. The comments are coming in a lot. So let me just read some of the YouTube comments. Again, if you want to join the live interactive session and contribute your thoughts on the topic of the day, just click on the link in the chat. It will be put in the YouTube live chat. Or if you're on our WhatsApp group in the community, just click on the link and join, and let's hear your voice as well. So again, Dinios 2000 says, exactly. I even see people dumping stones in the middle of the road and nobody does anything until an accident happens. Henry says, land are expensive at Ikoyi where the collapse happened. Very expensive. But that's where everyone in Nigeria wants to build. I'm talking 6 and 7 figure expensive. Only said, it's sad that floods and mudslides and building collapsing is frequent. That should not be. I'm telling you, 68 years after independence and we are having a single rain occurring and people can't go to work again because roads have been destroyed, opened into two. It's a crazy thing. Henry again says, if the lands at Accra were waterlogged, people will still buy because it's desirable and closer to the airport and all the important places in town. Yeah, but we need to discourage this, my brother. We need to discourage this. So let's go back to the main article and the topic of the day, right? So it says the governor of Lagos State has suspended the general manager of the Lagos State Building Control Agency. The governor vowed to find out what went wrong and punish those indicted in the collapsed 21-story building under construction in Ikoyi. Yes, so, but you see, again, we like to do a lot of these things. When something happens, we'll set up committees and say, hey, let's do a committee into this and let's find out this and this and this. But we are not making progress as a people. The governor vowed to find out what went wrong and punish those indicted. And they will go and make speeches, they will do press conferences.
All of this is money.
Not just the money aspect, even if it was money, but we were making progress. I don't mind, right? I don't mind at all. But we just do a lot of speeches, committees, and all that. And then people go back to sleep, right? So even on the issue that happened at Kaswa, right? I put this news article here because it says, we'll probe Asempa down building collapse, Engineering Council, and this is Ghana, right? The Engineering Council of Ghana has announced that it will launch an investigation, terms that they like to use. We are launching an investigation to determine the cause of the building that collapsed at Asempa down at Kaswa in the Ewutu Senya East Municipality of Central Region.
And after that, what happens next?
According to a survivor of the accident, a carpenter and 2 other construction workers were trapped under the rubble. The carpenter died on the spot, while the others succumbed to their injuries during evacuation to the hospital. The workers were in the process of pouring concrete for the first floor of the building when the collapse occurred. In an interview with City News, Isaac Bedu, the registrar of the Engineering Council, urged various assemblies to closely monitor building projects to prevent such tragedies.
True.
The arrangement is that if you are going to put up any building, you apply for permit to do that. The assembly is responsible for that area to ensure that everything is right for that type of structure that you are going to build. Whoever is doing the design must be a qualified architect and properly licensed. So our first point of call is the assembly, and we'll call them, we'll try to find out, and then we'll follow up with an investigation to find out what the root cause is. But pardon my language, let's be frank here. We are not serious in this country. That's just my honest opinion, right? Permit me, I'm going to rant a bit, but we are not serious in this country. First of all, the assembly is responsible for giving permit.
Yeah.
The permit acquisition process has been made so difficult that acquiring a permit is such a pain in the ass for most people.
Yeah.
Acquiring a permit is so expensive that many people want to just avoid it and start building.
Yeah.
Look, if you went the legal route of acquiring your permit before you started your building project, comment and let me know. Comment whether you're watching the live or the replay. If you started your building project before you acquired your permit also, comment and let me know. You are going to see, if we did a poll, about maybe only 10 to 20 people actually started their building project when they had a permit. The rest, everybody just starts. They'll come and write stop work, produce permit.
Then they'll paint over it and continue.
Then you pay and you continue, right?
They don't even pay. They paint over the red.
Like we are not serious in this country, right? And then again, the guy spoke about, the engineering council person in the news article spoke about using qualified architects. Look, one thing I've seen about Ghanaians from starting this channel, interacting with businesses, the data that we sit on, and even we've moved to Nigeria to do some work and stuff like that, right? People just are like averse when it comes to using professionals, architects. They say they are expensive, right? So for them to use architects, quantity surveyors, engineers on their building project, it's like you are pulling blood from from their bodies or something. No, they won't. They'll just start. They have a foreman, and me and my foreman, me and my mason, and then they are going their way, right? My mother's mason, my mother's foreman, and the whole design is in their head.
He did it for my father, so he can do it for me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that kind of thing. And then they just start. No proper planning.
For engineering, and then what?
Charlie,
design
sometimes
plot.
I get very fed up, right? Like I had someone who came to us and they said they wanted us to help to build their like house that they have in Ghana. Now, you know, for us, one, we don't take projects outside of Accra.
Yeah.
Number two, there are a few prerequisites you need to have before we accept any project. One, the land, does it belong to you? Is it registered? We don't want any litigation issues when we start. Number two, do you have a building permit? Charlie, we're engaging the guys. No, those things are not important. Can you imagine? Like, a permit is not important. Let's just go.
The reason he's saying that is because he knows that he can probably pay his way out.
Yeah, but that is why we are having a lot of these building collapses.
The permit is not just about you building your house. The permit also protects the people who are building, right?
And
the
not
people
just
in
even
the area.
Yeah, not just the people who are building and the people in the area. You see, for me, I was speaking about the stages that building when they collapse, the impact and the casualty.
Yeah.
We've just looked at one part, which is when it's still under construction, then there's the artisans who are going to be affected. When it has been completed, right, there are different uses of a completed building. It could be residential or it could be commercial. Now, residential, I may build my own house and live in it, so I don't really care about you. But if it's commercial and it's a space that I need to go and do some work, and that building collapses, I don't have any control. I'm gone. Right? A Melcom building collapsed in Ghana here with workers in it after morning prayers. Right? So it's not about prayers. No, like it's a very scary issue because I put myself in the shoes of people. Sometimes people come to us that they want jobs and stuff like that, and by virtue of our position and where we sit and stuff like that, our connections and stuff, our contacts, we're able to recommend, maybe somebody will be a sales attendant at a Melcom, right? And if I put myself in the shoes that if it's my little sister, I'm recommending to go and work somewhere where the building is collapsing, right? So if it's residential, you have a certain level of control. But if it is a commercial space, let's say you've gone to the mall, you are going to get a new MTN SIM, you've gone to NIA, you are going to register your Ghana card, you've gone to passport office, you're applying for a passport, and the building has structural defects, and it decides to collapse on you that day that you are going there. You see how serious this topic is, right? Because we can say, I'm doing my part and all that, but when someone is not doing their part, it's going to affect all of us. Our families, our friends, right? So we need to take this thing seriously, right? The municipal assemblies need to sit up and stop faffing around when they go to work and no, like they need to be serious. Anybody who has been appointed into any position of power, whether you are the minister for lands, you are the trade minister, whatever, we need to be serious. People need to stop selling expired cement.
Even with that, I said I was during the week, right? I was looking for houses that, in fact, lands that are not for sale, and I'll be asking them why is it not for sale. Those are written on the wall, and I saw this developer mixing cement with sand, not just sand, with too much sand, right? And I asked him, like, what is the result of what he's doing? He says, he wants more cement to build a block. And I say, hey, are you not weakening the concrete strength? He said, don't worry, it's just temporary. And I'm like, if this is what, I mean, then again, like you've given your project to a developer, right? They are not there, and they are mixing your building with too much sand.
We are in deep trouble in this country, and we are in serious trouble because one, the fact that we allow corruption to breed, right? The fact that we allow people to build on waterways. I remember some years back when some houses were demolished in Wager because they were on waterways. The government announced several times, don't buy lands here. Like when you are building, they'll come and break, but people will still find a way to go and complete the house. And then we turn everything in this country into politics.
Yeah.
That, hey, if the government does this, we'll not vote for them, this. And then when there's a rain, the whole place floods, walls break. So you may be in the community, you are driving by someone's wall and it breaks
on
your
you.
car. You know, so for me, I want us to take this topic very seriously. If you are just living in your house and you don't interact with people again, and you've built a very solid, very proper structure,
Yeah.
that's fine. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, you don't live on an island. You are going to be interacting with people. You are going to be going to people's offices. You are going to
Yeah.
visit friends and stuff. And if they are not as serious as you are and don't put like everything into their building like you would,
Yeah.
then you are in deep,
You're in deep
trouble,
trouble.
right? And that is why for me, right, I even like it when people are buying uncompleted buildings than buying completed buildings.
Okay.
Because if you are purchasing an uncompleted building, you get the opportunity to see the kind of iron rods which are in the building and stuff.
Okay, great.
Because sometimes
great.
people want
Using
to
the
cut
substandard
corners.
material.
Yeah, they
use
want to save money.
rusted iron rods and things.
Instead of even purchasing maybe a 14 millimeter, 16 millimeter, they'll say, oh, they'll do 12 and 10 and stuff like that. Just cut corners, right? So you go and see some kind of iron rods and the kind of columns and pillars in a building, huge building. When you see the pillar, there was this building that collapsed at Ofankor, which is very popular. And the guy was recording it when it collapsed, right? And then he was running away. He went there to record it because when he saw the building, one, the speed at which it came up, two, the columns in the building.
Okay.
They knew it would collapse.
Yeah.
So I think he was going to take a video and maybe post on social media. And unfortunately, when he was recording, the building collapsed. Right? Why? Like a lay person can see and tell that this building will collapse.
There was even a video you made where you were holding a block, right? And you drop the block on the ground and it just into dust, right?
Yeah. So people are exactly, and there was somebody in our WhatsApp community who sometimes posted some blocks that you could tell that this block is just sand, sand that they used, and you are going to live in this house. Hey, Charlie, hey, we are in serious trouble. We are in serious trouble in this country, and we need to address it. Now, let's read some of the comments from the YouTube as we continue with the topic for the day. The live discussion is really, really important for me. Yeah? So there are currently a lot, close to 100 people who are watching. Can we get at least 50 likes on this video? And again, if you want to join the live interactive session, the link is in the chat. Okay, so Dutch Arrow FL says, now that it is raining in Ghana, you should make a video to compare good and bad land so that we inexperienced people can know what good land looks like after rain. Okay, point well noted. We are taking notes. Bennett says, geological investigation before construction is a must. People cut corners and we face these collapses all the time, even on solid grounds. AJGA says, I went the legal route, but it was really expensive. I'm sure he's talking about the
building permits.
Yeah. Well, somebody in our community posted that they were charged how much?
200. Was it 200?
I think somebody posted 70K. And somebody posted something way more than that. Yeah. Madness. Someone said, I also used an architect and an engineer. I had a bad experience with masons on my first project.
Sorry.
Only said, greed is a double-edged sword. People make weak cement, but will people pay for good quality cement? Maybe that is my business answer. So he is discovering a business opportunity.
I'm proud of you.
A business opportunity. Yeah, and I feel yes. Or whenever there's an issue, it's an opportunity for somebody to solve that problem. Again, if you want to join the live interactive session for this video, just make sure to click the link and then we would allow you to, join the conversation. So anyone who wants to join, just request and then we'll allow you access to join. In the meantime, we are still going to continue with the topic of the day. So again, we put together some notes from 2009 to 2019, right? The situation in Nigeria and the major causes of the building projects, according to the research that we did, right, was the structural defects, poor structural design, and inadequate load-bearing capacity are the most common causes. Many buildings feature inappropriate reinforcements and weak foundations that can't support the structure. Substandard materials. We have someone who wants to join the live to share their thoughts. So we are going to enable them, but we will continue with the topic. Poor workmanship, poor workmanship, natural factors like the rain. That one you can't control it, right? So the ones that you can control, which are the workmanship, the materials, the permits, and all those things. Let's be serious about them.
Yeah.
Right. Now, statistics on building collapse from 2009 to 2019, 60.71% of all the building collapses were in Lagos, Oyo, and Ogun states. Right. Now, 2014 was the peak year. It had the highest number of building collapse incidents. 35 is the highest number of casualties that was recorded, right? And then 3-story buildings were found to be the most prone to collapse. So I know a lot of people who want to be doing apartments and stuff like that. People come to us and say they want to do 4-story apartments, 5-story apartments on a very small parcel of land in Accra and stuff like that. It's because they want to maximize the use of the land.
No, but some of them too, I'll call it illegal modification. You know that this extra floors you are adding, without proper reinforcements, it will collapse. But because you want to make that modification by hook or crook, you do everything in your power to make that modification. When the problem comes, then you'll be pointing fingers, right? But you know that, like, from the word go, it is not a building which you are supposed to modify.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point because I've had people also who came to us and they wanted us to like help them finish their building project, right? And when they came, we always ask you for the initial design, right? The architectural drawings, the structural drawings, and all that. And these people had maybe a foundation for a normal bungalow style house, but because later they were blessed and they got a lot of money, they now wanted to, build something exactly. Now, in the process, the foundation was not built for a structure like that, but you are forcing it. Right. So we have Abdul joining the live interactive session. I'm sure he wants to contribute to the discussion. So Abdul, please, you can unmute your mic now and tell us where you are watching from and your thoughts on the topic.
Hi, good evening. I'm calling from Southampton. So I just wanted to say that obviously there are a lot of people on the live, and I think in general that I meet who try to build without like an architect. Like I don't even know how they do it, but I think they just turn up to the site and just say, "Well, I want a 3-bedroom bungalow. The sizes should be standard." It's very. But as you mentioned, it's not just dangerous, but you never know in the future if the government decides to develop the area or do something there. I had one instance where a family friend, the government decided to build like a new hospital, and it cut into his land. And because he didn't have a permit, they just knocked it down, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you have a permit, you can be compensated. And I think the permit is also like a double check on the land. There are a lot of people who buy agricultural land, they'll buy a commercial land or lands that you're not supposed to build on, right? But if it goes to lands commission, they can decline the permit, and at least instead of just sitting there and then one day they come and knock your building down. So all I'm saying is, in Ghana we don't have this culture of using professionals. Like on my first project, it was a disaster because I was just freestyling it. I'd never built a house before. So it was just, like they'll just take you somewhere, point. Fortunately, the land was genuine, but it could have been illegal, like because I didn't do any checks. I didn't know what lands commission was. All I know is someone gave me an indenture and said, "This is the plot right here." And I was like, well, I want a 3-bedroom. You just go and look for a mason, da da da, But that's really dangerous. And the second time, even a quantity surveyor, the first when we started, I realized that I couldn't afford to build the kind of house I wanted. So if I didn't use a quantity surveyor, I would have gone in and then my house would be one of those uncompleted buildings. So because I knew that I couldn't afford it, we adjusted the entire building plan to make it smaller. And that meant that I was able to finish it within about 2 years. So there is a reason why you need to use professionals, is what I'm trying to say. Like, don't skip it. It costs money, but trust me, you save a lot, because when things go wrong, they really go wrong. You know. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abdul, for joining the live to share your experience. And I like the honesty, right? Because there's not a lot of people who would be comfortable, admitting that they did the wrong thing the first time, right? But you've been brutally honest. And I know a lot of other people will probably be in the same situation as you currently, but they will be ashamed to admit it. But we are all learning. This is a learning platform. And it's not just us who are the experts. We have people, a lot of experts in the community, a lot of experts on the live, right? So what you said is really true. Almost every week, the question we get asked the most on Instagram, TikTok, and via email is, how much is it going to cost me to build a 3-bedroom house?
On a 50 by 70 plot of land.
They don't even add the dimensions of the land. How much is it? So they don't want to engage the services of an architect.
No, they want.
And I asked, do you have architectural drawings? They will tell you no, they don't have any architectural drawings. And then I tell them we can't help them, and they get disappointed. Oh, but you've been building houses, so you should have an idea how much a 3-bedroom house costs, right? And that is one of the things that I've seen. A lot of people, they just want to have an idea and see if their budget will fit, and then move on. And it means that they are not going for any quantity surveyor. There's no engineer involved. They are just going to find a mason and see. Africa Building Hub told me I can build a house with 200,000 cedis.
Yeah.
So let's start. And yeah.
Professionals, the whole project goes a lot smoother. Like, I follow you on TikTok and stuff, and I know a lot of your audience are people who are not in the country. And the fact is, there are a lot of people who are using family members, but your family member may not be trying to cheat you, but maybe they've never built a house before. So because you have the building plan, if you have an architect, the second time, the house was a lot smaller, but the architects used to have meetings with the engineer, because the engineer sometimes wouldn't understand a certain part of the architectural plan. So I was there and they talk in a completely different language. Genuinely, if you haven't been educated in that aspect, you will not know. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not as simple as people think. It's just you dig the foundation, put the blocks, then it's like Lego. It's really not. It's very technical. And I know a lot of people, they use relatives and then they'll get there and the blocks will be weak, like what you mentioned earlier. Then you have to break it, waste of money, you have to do it again. But it's really important when you have professionals on ground, it's been the smoothest process I've had the second time, because there's a plan. So everyone is just following the plan. We know exactly what everything's supposed to cost. So even when I'm making tweaks, I'm referring back to the plan here in the UK and saying, oh, the window in the living room, I would like you to put this type of design or this and that. It's a lot easier to direct. But when you don't have a plan, I remember the first house I did, because there was no plan, it was a mason. The bathrooms were the size of bedrooms, ridiculously huge. You walk in there and I'm like, how am I even going to, genuinely, you could put a whole wardrobe on the side and there'll be a whole bathroom. It was ridiculous, But if I had a plan, we could look at the dimensions and be like, wow, why is this bathroom half the size of the living room? It doesn't make sense. and I would have saved so much out there. So yeah, I can't reiterate it enough. And to be honest, it's not that expensive. Like the architects I used, I think every visit he made to site was only about 500 CDs. But there were times when the engineer was about to make a mistake, and he got there and he's like, "No, according to the plan, you have to do it like this." You understand? And even the engineer, because he had his own team, it was like you have that experience and high skill level, but he also has a team of like masons, and I think that's how it should be. I don't think a normal mason can construct like a complicated building, especially when it's a story building, because that one has its own palaver, you know. And I think in our quest to save money, it's not everything we need to save money. And as you mentioned earlier, you're going to live in this house. You know, like the second project's at Pram Pram, and because of the rains, there are houses that have collapsed. Imagine if someone is living in that, and the house collapses on you because you're trying to save money. It doesn't make sense. Like save money on other aspects of life, not in a building. You know. So yeah, I've ranted on for ages now. I think you're very bored of my voice.
Thank you so much, Abdul. So maybe you can mute now, and then, but we really appreciate your thoughts. This is real experience, and I really love his, frankness and honesty and all that. Let's read some of the comments on the YouTube live. Again, Abdul says, I was charged 7K for a permit covering 2 buildings, and I thought it was expensive or excessive. 70K, wow. Okay, Nas DMX says, modifications of buildings without consulting your architectural drawings or your architect. Really, really serious issues that we have. So let's continue with the topic of the day. Again, if you want to join the live interactive session, the link is in the YouTube live chat and on the WhatsApp community. So we have some data, some statistics on notable building collapses in Nigeria from 2009 to 2019. So we picked the data. In 2009, a 6-story teaching hospital collapsed. Now, again, remember that there's residential and there's commercial, right? Yeah. So if you are building and it's a commercial property and it's a hospital where at any point in time, lots of people who are already in a lot of pain. No, like it's a serious issue for me. 5 dead in a hospital. So maybe I came because I had a cold and I died in the hospital. No, like it's crazy for me, right? Substandard materials and poor supervision resulted in that. Again, in 2009, Oyo State's 4-story structure collapsed. The report was not done, so it wasn't reported, but 5 dead. Lagos, 2-story collapsed, 7 dead. Abuja, 2-story commercial structure again, structural failure, substandard materials. Fortunately, no deaths reported. Then let's move to 2010, where a 4-story building collapsed in Abuja. And again, all these places are very highly densely populated areas. Disregard for building regulations, 23 dead, 11 injured. Lagos, 2-story, 4 dead, 12 injured, substandard material. So instead of going for the highest grade cement they can get, instead of going for high tensile iron rods, instead of doing the things the proper way, 0. Abuja, 6-story commercial building, unqualified professionals worked on it, the cheapest form of labor they could get. Hey, let's go. I have guys from the village, they are cheaper than the people who can do it. Weak structure. The total number of people who died were not reported. In 2011, again, Lagos, highly populated area, another commercial area, 5-story hotel, right? A hotel can house like 1,000 people. 2 people died, poor quality concrete. Akure, hotel under construction. So this is under construction. Structural failure, no deaths reported. 2012, Abuja, 2-story, structural defect, weak foundation, 3 dead, 9 injured. Gombe, 3-story, 101 years old building, old age, lack of maintenance. I think there's a point that even I have not, really even considered a lot. We are just looking at the buildings that are starting now. But I think maybe in another video, we need to consider this topic. Some of the old buildings that are for sale nowadays in Accra and other places. what you need to do if you are going to purchase a property like that.
Okay.
All right. Then again, we have 2013 Lagos, a 3-story residential unauthorized modification. So you see all the issues that cause collapses, we have identified them and we've put them in this report. Use of quacks, people who are not professionals, but they will tell you they are professionals, and resulting in deaths. Again, Lagos, 2-story under construction, non-compliance with regulations, poor materials, 4 people dead. Abuja, government school building. Again, these are the things that for me, I get really scared of, especially as a family man, right? As someone who has kids, and the school my kids attend, they are doing some expansion projects, and it typically happens a lot with schools.
Okay.
So maybe they will start with just one structure.
Okay.
Then as the demand for like more students to come in, they tend to build other structures, right? Usually they want to do story building so that they can get more classes and all that. And sometimes the speed with which they build these things, and it's very concerning. And I get scared when I hear that a school has collapsed, because I picture myself, hey, if my child was there, I'll probably go crazy. So again, you will be building it yourself. You will do all your best things that you can do. But imagine a university collapses. You raised your child from kindergarten, basic school, JHS, SHS, you've paid a lot of school fees, investment, and the university collapses. No, like Charlie, today's topic, it's something that is so relatable and so personal, especially for me, that I am so concerned. A government school building collapsed. Fortunately, only 8 were injured. In 2014, 4-story building, structural failure, 4 dead. Lagos Synagogue Church, a church, right? Another commercial space. I'll call it a commercial space, right? A place that a lot of people would be in than a normal residential. 116 people dead. 116 people dead.
You came to pray for long life.
It's crazy. 116 people dying in a church. No, we need to be serious. We need to be very serious about these things, right? It could be a mosque which collapses and lots of people go to mosques to pray. It can be a church and there are families. There are families over there. Charlie, it's an issue that we need to be very serious about. For me, even the residential part doesn't worry me as much as the commercial spaces that are moving in, and I don't have any control, right? It's like whenever like I'm going to sit in an airplane, I get so scared. I really get scared, right? Because I don't have any control.
Mid-air.
I'm telling you, when I was growing up, and like I really hated long distance journeys, especially by road, right? Because of the things that we spoke about, the fact that we have a lot of head-on collisions in Ghana, and the roads can be dual carriageways and all, but we are not doing it, right? And people are doing a lot of overtaking. Me, when I started growing up and having my own money, if I'm sitting in a commercial transport like bus, and the driver is speeding, I told him I'll alight. I don't care how much I paid. My life is more important. Continue with your journey. I'll look for a driver that will take his time to drive with me, because my blood pressure rises so much. So when I sit in an aeroplane where I can't tell the pilot I want to advise, I get really scared. So whenever I'm moving into spaces where I have no control over who built it, what materials, and in all those things, I get really concerned. Especially when those buildings are very, very old. I get very concerned. Very, very concerned. There's an overhead in Accra around Achimota. When you are driving on that overhead, you can see the iron rods sticking out. Some parts of the concrete have fallen off, and I get scared every time I'm driving and I'm passing that side, because I'm wondering when is the day that this thing is going to collapse, because one day it will collapse. Recently, a truck, a container truck or whatever, flipped on that same overhead. But God being so good, it was I think it was on a Saturday or Sunday. This is just like 2 or 3 weeks ago. That same place I pass every day on my way to work. Right? And it didn't land on anybody. Since then, I got so scared when I'm using that road, because if a car can fall, like a heavy truck with a container, and break the barrier of the overhead,
No,
and come and
then
land on the
landing-
floor. And in the evenings and in the morning, there's traffic pile up.
Hey,
You know, so we need to be very serious when we are building. It scares me. Like, this topic really scares me. And when we're preparing for it, like, I was going through a lot of emotions. So let me read some of the comments on the YouTube, and then we continue. So Francis Matekoli says, kindly like and share. Oh, Francis, chop kiss. God bless you, Francis. Thank you so much for the support. We've done 1 hour, so we'll get ready to wrap up the video. In 2015, right? In Lagos, 2015, we had another incident where a building collapsed, three-story building. In the same 2015, another three-story building. 2016, five-story building, a two-story building, and then we have our first residential building coming in, like a normal non-residential
heavy
in
downpour.
2017. Heavy downpour and vibrations. 8 dead. Then
The whole house.
I'm telling you, four-story building collapsed. And in 2019, a three-story building collapsed. Another three-story building, which was a school, 20 dead, 41 injured, so 61 casualties. Right. It's Charlie. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm so scared. On Wednesday, March 5th. Now, this is the most recent times. Today's date is what? March 16th. So 11 days ago, another building collapsed. A tragic building collapse occurred on Oriwu Street, Lekki Phase 1. And this is a place I was like December 2024, claiming 4 lives and leaving 15 others injured. This devastating incident is yet another painful reminder of the persistent challenges within Nigeria's construction industry. Despite rapid urban development, particularly in Lagos State, structural failures continue to occur, many of which could have been prevented. The impact of these collapses extends beyond statistics. It erodes public confidence in the construction industry, discouraging investment, and raising concerns about safety in urban housing and infrastructure. Moreover, such incidents leave families grieving, survivors face long-term trauma, and communities suffer displacement. Lagos, one of Africa's fastest-growing cities, boasts a booming real estate sector. Yet, this rapid expansion will come at a high human and economic cost without strict adherence to safety standards. As a Nigerian American trained civil engineer and a practicing construction management professional, I have observed that most building collapses stem from avoidable issues, including non-compliance with engineering standards, use of substandard materials, and all the things we've spoken about. Many projects skip essential steps such as soil testing, structural analysis, and proper supervision by qualified engineers. In efforts to cut costs, developers use low-quality cement, weak steel reinforcements, and poor construction techniques, compromising structural integrity. Many projects are handled by non-certified individuals, significantly increasing safety risks. Additionally, slabs are often not allowed to cure properly, preventing the concrete from reaching its full strength and durability, and leading to weaker structures. The frequency of building collapses in Nigeria is alarming. Over 271 building collapses were recorded between 2012 and 2022, 10 years span. 271. So on average, you're having like 27 building collapses a year. How many months are there in a year? 12. So it means that every month you are getting at least two. So it means that what? Every 2 weeks, the building collapses in Nigeria. This is crazy. And Lagos accounts for 50% of these. Charlie, we can't finish this topic today. We will need to wrap up and then continue. We'll need to wrap up and then continue this topic another time. But for me, it's a concern, and I think that everybody by now understands the concern. So comment and let us know. I'll read some of the comments on the YouTube live. It says Nigerian style of architecture home design is not for me. Nah. Simaya says this is excellent content. All individuals watching should like. Continue your good work. We highly appreciate that. Thank you so much for the encouragement. Now, still on the trending topic. Today's trending topic was a video that we did about this plant. If you know the name of the plant, please put it in the chat. And it has over 3 million views on Instagram and TikTok. And we're talking about the fact that if you are buying land and you notice this plant, or you are going to rent and you notice this plant in the area, or you are moving into a commercial space and you notice this plant in the area, you need to be very cautious. We want to say a very big thank you to Doormaster for sponsoring this live video. They have come up with these amazing bulletproof 7-layer security doors, which are for the premium people who are looking for premium kinds of doors. You don't want just the normal door. These are their Royal series. They are tamper resistant, weather resistant, and it's just amazing.
Waterproof.
So yes, they are waterproof. They have all the latest technologies. Bulletproof and all that. They have all the latest technologies, right? So if you are looking for a security door to purchase that can use fingerprint technology, biometric, card, so you are doing like apartments and Airbnb, and you want it at the higher premium end of the market, you can still have the manual lock and key and all that, then Doormaster is what you need to consider. So thank you so much, Doormaster, for sponsoring this video. If you want to purchase a door from Doormaster, their contact details are on the screen. Please call them, tell them you are coming from Africa Building Hub, and they are going to, they are going to give you a good deal, a good discount for that. Now, in addition, we also want to say, if you want to do business with us, you want to promote your apartment, your property for sale, our details are in the on screen right now. Send us an email, abh@abhcollabs.com. If you want, consultation, please feel free to reach out to us. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. Close out for us, bro.
This is